A lot of Miami Dolphins news to get to on today's show. I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. We got some injury news to break down before NFL Week 17. A Shaq Barrett update. Yes, you're hearing that correctly. And the Dolphins' path to the 2025 NFL playoffs just got a little bit harder. We'll break down what that means. But can you hit that thumbs up icon for me? That challenged by our bosses here at Chat Sports, because they said we couldn't get 300 likes today. We haven't gotten over 300 likes in a week and a half. Let's prove the bosses wrong, show them the Dolphins fans have our backs here at the channel, and hit that thumbs up icon. All right, we'll start with the Dolphins injury updates, and more specifically with star wide receiver Jaylen Waddle, because if we remember and wind it back, he got his knee injury 2 weeks ago against the Texans, rolled up on, did not play against the San Francisco 49ers last Sunday, and is back at practice on Thursday for the Miami Dolphins. Other little notes here: Teron Armstead, Kendall Fuller, and Anthony Walker are the players on the roster that not seen during practice. Fuller expected. Armstead might just be rest. Hopefully he's able to play. But Anthony Walker Jr., he is trending in the wrong direction. But more on Jaylen Waddle here. Tua, who spoke to the media after practice, said that Jaylen Waddle looked really good in the practice today for the Miami Dolphins. And I have a lot of thoughts on if Jaylen Waddle should play or not this week. Now, if the Dolphins still have a chance to make the postseason, Waddle's feeling good. He looks good in practice. He feels good. He's confident in his own ability. Then, yeah, I'll play Jaylen Waddle. But if the Dolphins are eliminated before they kick off on Sunday afternoon, I would not play him, because even if he is 90% healthy, there is no point in playing him if the games don't mean anything, even if you win. And it is possible, by the way, that the Dolphins are eliminated from the playoffs before they take the field on Sunday. How is that possible? Well, it's because the two teams that they need to lose play on Saturday. The Chargers play the Patriots in New England on Saturday afternoon, and at like 1 p.m. Eastern time, and then at 4:30 Eastern time, the Broncos play the Bengals. Well, the Dolphins, in order to make the postseason, need one of the Chargers or Denver Broncos to lose out. So if both the Chargers and Broncos win on Saturday, well, we'll be going into Sunday knowing that the Dolphins' final two games of the season mean nothing other than where they will be picking in April in the first round of the NFL draft. So it is possible. And it is interesting to bring this up as well, because like we mentioned, it's possible the Dolphins are eliminated going into Sunday. Well, Tua asked about if that would change anything on the Dolphins' outlook on that game and how they would prepare for that game, if they would play people. Like, for example, Teron Armstead, the veteran. Why would you play him and risk injury if that game means nothing? Well, Tua responded to that with an interesting quote here, saying you get to see a lot about a person who is by the way they go about their business, basically referring to if they would lay down or give up going into a game that relatively means nothing for them personally. Now, I do understand that, and a lot of people on the Dolphins roster would give it their all and play because, well, their spots on an NFL team, either Miami's or a different team if they're free agent, is not guaranteed, and they want to put good tape out there and show other teams, just in case they don't get brought back by Miami, that they are worth being signed. So there will be a lot of reasons to play the games if you're eliminated, but for the players under contract and are dealing with injuries for next year, well, I don't really know if there's any point of them playing all 60 minutes if you're the Miami Dolphins, specifically a guy like Waddle who is not 100%. But let me know, what would you do? Would you play Jaylen Waddle if the Fins are eliminated going into the game on Sunday? I do believe the Dolphins won't be eliminated. I will be willing to bet that one of the Broncos or Chargers will lose on Saturday because the Chargers are on the road. Denver's got a tough opponent, Cincinnati. But either way, if they are eliminated, type P if you'd play Waddle, type D if you would or not. All right, you mentioned, or at least I mentioned, the little injury to Anthony Walker Jr. He's been DNP, very limited this week in practice. So you might see Tyrel Dodson. Dodson has been that third linebacker ever since he was claimed from the Seattle Seahawks when he got waived. He had to start a game about a month ago, and I thought he played pretty well due to an Anthony Walker Jr. injury. Well, Walker has been struggling over the last month, and he's injured right now. And Jordan Brooks, who is on the track to play this week, will likely have Tyrell Dodson as his partner in crime in the middle of that Dolphins defense. I'm excited to see what Dodson could bring to the table because we have noted here on the channel that one of the biggest positions of need for the Dolphins, or at least in terms of what they need to do in the offseason to make sure they are a better team next year, they need to figure out that off-ball linebacker number 2 spot. Jordan Brooks is in the first year of a 3-year contract. He'll be the linebacker 1 next year, deservedly so, by the way, because of how he's played this season. But Anthony Walker Jr., bad this year. David Long Jr., bad this year. They will have to figure out an off-ball linebacker to pair up with Jordan Brooks because Anthony Weaver, the defensive coordinator for Miami, will and likes to play 2 linebackers out there, so they need to find a linebacker too. Maybe Dodson could audition to be brought back next year to be that guy. All right, let's transition it over to more Dolphins news because this one got dropped this morning from Adam Schefter. The Miami Dolphins waived former Pro Bowl edge rusher Shaq Barrett. Remember, Barrett retired before the season from the Miami Dolphins. Then a month ago, it was reported that he wants to return. He wants to come off of the retirement list, but the Dolphins own his rights. So the Dolphins had to make a decision on if they are ultimately going to activate him to the 53-man roster or release him and let another team sign him. Well, they said a month ago they were not going to release him and they were not going to reinstate him. So he was just going to be on the retired list and not play this season. Well, then all of a sudden something changed this week because, well, you see it. He's released, and if another team claimed him, he'd be ineligible to play for the rest of the season, but assuming he clears waivers on Friday, he then could sign with a contender. I think this is an absolute joke from the Miami Dolphins, and if he didn't want to play for you and he's asking to be waived so he can go sign with a contending team, you should not honor that. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. We'll talk more about that in just a second. But we are sponsored by DraftKings. Let me tell you more about the proud sportsbook and casino partner of Dolphins Today. It's the most wonderful time of the year for getting in on all the hoops, football, and hockey action at DraftKings Sportsbook. In the season of giving, we're being gifted college football and basketball, pro football and basketball, and pro hockey too, almost 24/7. And here's a gift for all new customers. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code HEATCHAT. That's code HEATCHAT for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball. And DraftKings is the king of player props in both NFL and the NBA, but I've got 2 straight bets on this Sunday's game with the Dolphins and Browns. I'll take Miami minus 6.5, but I'll also take their over in points, 23.5. 2 different straight bets, lines and odds subject to change. But shout out to DraftKings. Use promo code HEATCHAT, our dual code of our Dolphins and Heat channel here at Chat Sports, to potentially unlock $150 in bonus bets if you bet a $5 bet and win. Shout out to DraftKings for sponsoring the show. Let's close out my thoughts on Shaq Barrett because I don't like the idea of letting him go to another contending team. Now, all signs point to it would likely be someone in the NFC, whether it be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Philadelphia Eagles. I just think it's bad principle. Maybe I'm wrong for trying to hold a player hostage, but my thing is, you signed with us. You signed with the Dolphins, and then you decided you did not want to play. And now maybe he said he would be wanting to play for the Dolphins and just get back on the football field. And Miami said, well, we feel like that's wrong to take away a roster spot from one of the other edge rushers that we've had all year long, whether it's a Quentin Bell or take away the opportunities of Emmanuel Ogbah and Chop Robinson. And I understand the Dolphins side of that of, well, you quit on us before the year. You retired. We found other options. We don't want to have you come back and take their snaps away. I understand both sides of it, but I think if I was the Dolphins, there's 2 weeks left in the season. I would have just taken this into the offseason, because if Shaq Barrett was realistically wanting to come back into the NFL, well, you still have his rights contractually. You don't anymore after you waived him. But if you let the season go by and end, and then he really did want to unretire, you can say, okay, well, Shaq Barrett's going to be on our roster next season because you signed him and you agreed to a deal. And you would have like, all right, Shaq's going to be our third, fourth edge rusher behind Chop, Jalen Phillips, and Bradley Chubb next season potentially. I don't know. I would have held on to him for the upcoming offseason and re-explored the options then, because if you wanted to just still release him, well, you still could. I don't know. I feel like this is a bad move by Miami, and maybe you might say, well, them doing a solid to Shaq Barrett so he could go sign with someone else could help them sign other free agents, because other free agents will see that. The agent, Drew Rosenhaus, will be like, all right, they did my guy Shaq Barrett a solid. I'll help them out with another guy. Maybe you could talk about that, but I don't know. I would have just held on to him for the end of the season. Maybe that's just me, though. All right. Make sure you are subscribed, because we are the #1 spot for Dolphins news and updates. Listen, that doesn't impact anything around the Miami Dolphins this season, but we still want to talk about it alongside injury news. Hit that sub button. We're on the road to 67,000 subscribers. All right, we'll end today's show with this. The playoff percentage of Miami took a slight hit after the NFL Christmas Day games, which were, by the way, absolute stinkers between the Chiefs and Steelers and the Ravens-Texans. Quick sidebar. Holy shit, how did the Dolphins lose to the Texans 2 weeks ago? They are so bad. It just shows the different weight class that Miami is in comparison to a team like the Baltimore Ravens. But why did these two games matter? Well, you needed Pittsburgh to win against the Kansas City Chiefs. Why? Well, we talked about the Broncos or Chargers needing to lose out for the Finns to potentially make the playoffs. Well, the Broncos' remaining schedule was very difficult, going into Cincinnati this week on Saturday and then playing the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 18. And I thought if the Chiefs needed to care about this game and they played their starters, that the Broncos actually would lose out. I'm picking Cincinnati to beat Denver on Saturday. The Bengals are playing much better ball right now at home. I think Joe Burrow will keep the season alive for Cincinnati, because they could still make the playoffs if they win out. Broncos lose out, the Dolphins lose the game, and the Colts lose the game. A lot, but they can still make it. And if the Chiefs cared about this game, I would have taken the Chiefs to win too. But after winning on Wednesday, the Chiefs clinched home field advantage, so the final week of the season means absolutely nothing, because they are going to be the #1 seed in the postseason regardless. But there might be a chance that that doesn't mean anything, because here's the fact. If they do not play their starters and rest most of them, that means they would not play football for 24, 25 days. The early game this week on Wednesday, you don't play next week, you have a bye after that, and then a week later, like, we're actually talking about 3 weeks here of them not playing football. Do you want to risk your starters having rust in that first playoff game? Yes, it would be probably against a bad opponent, whether it's the Texans-Steelers winner or blah, 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 but either way, not playing football for 24, 25 days could be a disaster. So maybe, just maybe, even though the Chiefs have nothing to play for in the final week of the season against Denver on the road, they may actually play some of their guys at least a half and still win a football game, because those backups that play, they will give it their all to earn PT and put tape on the field for themselves in the offseason. So if the starters play a half of football, maybe they have a lead and the backups are able to hold on. I guess you never know. All right, if you want more on the Miami Dolphins, give me a follow on Twitter at Nic_Rohloff. The best way to be up to date on everything Miami Dolphins. Subscribe here, follow me on Twitter, and I'll have more news and updates leading up to Sunday's game against the Browns.